Hi there, and welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today, I'm going to show you how to make super easy and delicious refried beans in the Ninja Foodi. I'm using the 6.5 quart, but you could use any of the sizes. That's fine. You could use your Instant Pot. Perfectly fine. It will work in any electric pressure cooker, and it's so easy and so delicious that I hope you give it a try. So the first thing I'm going to do is add in 2 cups of water. Now you could use chicken stock or beef stock, even if you wanted, instead of the water, but I just found that I have the seasonings that I want here and I didn't want to change the flavor of the beans, so I'm just using plain water for this, and it's 2 cups. 1 cup of pinto beans that are rinsed well, and then I pick out if there's any stones or any beans that look discolored, I pick those out. So put those in. These are not soaked, they're just rinsed. You don't need to soak them, but you can soak them if you prefer. If you want to soak your beans overnight, you can do that. Then you would just reduce your cooking time, probably to about 15 minutes, I would think. But I have not tested the recipe that way, so use your own judgment with that one. We have 1 bay leaf going in, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of ground dry mustard, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Just put that in. And then we have our onions. This is a Vidalia onion, but you could use a red onion, you could use a yellow onion, a white onion, whatever kind of onion you like. And if you don't like onions, you can leave them out. That's no problem. But I'm using 1/2 of a Vidalia onion that I've diced up into about a 1/4 inch dice. Some of them are a little bigger because I didn't worry too much about it. We're going under pressure for 30 minutes, so it's going to really soften these onions up. Some of them are even sticking together. Again, no worries at all. All right, that's it. Now we can go under pressure. So put your pressure lid on. Isn't that easy? I love recipes like this. Dump, dump, pressure cook. All right, we're gonna turn our valve to the sealed position. Turn the Ninja Foodi on, go to high pressure, set the time for 30 minutes. And it doesn't take too long for this to come up to pressure. Probably about 5 to 7 minutes. It really doesn't take a long time at all. And then hit the start button, and we will go under pressure for 30 minutes, and then we will natural release for 15 minutes, or you can let it naturally release the entire way. But you do want to let the beans natural release for at least 15 minutes, okay? All right, so it took about 8 minutes to come up to pressure. So I was a little off on that number. Sorry about that. And we pressure cooked for 30 minutes on high. And now we have done a 15-minute natural release. And I will release the remaining pressure, which really should not be that much. All right, the red pin has dropped. And now we can open up the lid. Do that away from you. All right. It smells so good. All right, I'm gonna fish out that bay leaf because we do not want to keep that in there. So I'm gonna fish that out. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. If you like texture in your beans, you can simply use a masher and start to mash them down. If you like your beans, like I do, a little bit smoother, then use an immersion blender. And that's what I'm gonna do. I mean, I could sit here and keep mashing these down, but I like my beans to be a little bit just smooth texture. So I'm gonna take them out of the Ninja Foodi and put them into this bowl, and I'm gonna use an immersion blender to blend them up. Now, depending on the kind of immersion blender that you have, you could do it in the pot if you're really careful. But mine is metal on the end, and as careful as I am, I have nicked the bottom. So I'm not gonna do that today because I had to buy a new pot. So I'm gonna use a spatula here, or a scoop, I should say, and scoop them out. And they look like runny beans right now. Don't worry about that. You don't need to strain off the liquid or anything, I promise you. All right, now it's probably just as easy for me to lift the bowl up. And pour the rest in. All right, now there's a few onions down there in the bottom. Don't worry about it. You do not need to do anything here with the pot at all. You don't have to clean it out, nothing like that. So I'm gonna grab my immersion blender. When you're using an immersion blender, you wanna make sure that you have a deep enough bowl. So don't try to do this in a shallow bowl. It really makes it difficult and it can sometimes splatter back at you. And I'm just gonna put it in here and close it up. All right, that looks good. Now look how runny they look, right? That's not refried beans. That's just runny. But we're gonna fix that because now we have to actually fry them. And we're gonna fry them right in the bottom of the Ninja Foodi. So let me go ahead and get this out of the way. All right, so now we have our like pureed beans. You could even do this in a blender. If you have the Ninja Foodi hot cold blender, you could put them right in the blender and blend them up. That would be fine too. All right, so I'm gonna turn the Ninja Foodi on. We're gonna go to sear saute. We wanna go to high. Now, you can use any type of fat you want to fry your beans, or you could omit that altogether. I've made this recipe several times where I just put this back into the pot and heated it up to kind of thicken it up to the desired consistency that I like for my refried beans. So do not feel like you have to put in the fat. But traditionally they are refried. And I'm gonna use bacon fat, but you could use olive oil, canola oil, bacon fat. You could use any type of fat you want, or like I said, omit it altogether. I'm gonna put in a tablespoon of the bacon fat and let that melt. And then we will get our beans back in and we will fry them for our refried beans. You can also add in chopped onion. So if you wanted a little texture in your refried beans, add in, you know, a little bit of chopped onion. Maybe a half of an onion would be good, or, you know, whatever you like. You could add in some chopped jalapenos now. That would be delicious. So really, you can customize this any way you like. All right, so it looks like all of the bacon grease has melted in there. Now I'm gonna pour in my beans. All right, it looks great. And now I just sort of let them fry and stir them until they thicken to the consistency that I like. And I don't like mine super thick, but I also don't like them like really runny. But you can even see right now, they are getting to be a nice consistency. So I think just a few more minutes and we will be good to go. And if you weren't gonna eat them right away, you could certainly put the keep warm on and just let them sit in the pot for a little while. That will also burn off any of that extra liquid. But what I found, if I left them too long, they got a little bit too dry. And if that happens to you, do not worry, add in a little bit of water and they will become the perfect consistency for you. I know some people will strain their beans before they then fry them, and that's fine, you can do that. But I've found that the liquid has so much flavor in it that I want to keep it in there, and I just rather go a little bit longer with this saute process or fry process and keep that flavor all in there. They are so delicious. And I know the mustard sounds a little odd, and I'm not even sure if that's even traditional. It's sort of just my thing where I was thinking about what flavor combination I wanted, and it just works so perfectly. So I love this recipe. And I'm not a huge fan of refried beans, but this recipe I think is really good. All right, they look like they're done. They have burned off a lot of the liquid They are much, much thicker and they look really, really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn the Ninja Foodi off. And I can tell, let me just show you how I can kind of tell. So I can tell they're not like totally falling off, like running off the spoon. Well, this is the scoop and spread, but you know what I mean. So they're sticking a little bit more. So they are really thickening up. And if I kept this going, they would really, really get thick. But I don't want that. I want them to be just like they are right now. All right, so here we go. We are done with our refried beans. Now, obviously, these are piping hot. So as they cooled off, they will thicken even more. So keep that in mind when you determine when your beans are done to your liking, because these are perfect for me, but they will get a little thicker as they sit. And like I said, if they become too thick, so let's say you finish this and then you're moving on to the rest of your meal and they're too thick, just add in a little bit of water, mix them up, and they're gonna be just fine. Okay, now refried beans. Obviously, you could make a bean burrito out of these. You could make all kinds of things. A 7-layer Mexican dip, this would be perfect for. But for you guys, I'm just gonna taste them just as they are first. And then I'm gonna add a few of my favorite toppings and give them another taste. So here we go. So they're perfect consistency. They smell amazing. They are so good. Now, I could probably use a little more salt. When I was testing the recipe, I used 1 teaspoon of salt. And as they sat, they became way too salty. So I cut that down to half of a teaspoon. But you could salt them now and it would be fine. So if you needed to add a little more salt, go ahead. That's perfectly fine. But they're not like so bland, or they're not bland by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm not even gonna worry about that. I love these. They are like, you still get the bean taste, but there's something about that little bit of mustard and that little bit of cumin and that bay leaf that just make them taste so good. All right, so my favorite toppings are a little bit of cilantro because I love cilantro. Maybe a jalapeno pepper and a little bit of Mexican cheese. And that would be how I would want my refried beans served on the side of a Mexican dish. Yummy. And I'm gonna be brave and I'm gonna eat that whole jalapeno pepper. Let's hope it's not too hot. I didn't test this one, so if I run off camera for water, you're gonna know why. So good. So good. Definitely need salt though. Absolutely, I'm gonna grab some salt because I wanna show you guys, or at least explain how much better the flavor is. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of salt. I'll be right back. All right, so I mean a little tiny, tiny bit. I'm gonna put there. And then I'm gonna put probably about, I would say, 1/4 teaspoon in here. And then mix these up. Look how thick they're getting now. My goodness. Perfect. But look how easy it is to make these. And if you wanted them spicy, add some spice in there. I think that would be really good. That jalapeno pepper that I ate was not spicy, hardly at all. A little Cholula or hot sauce on top would be perfect. A little sour cream, yum. That tiny bit of salt just brought out all the flavor in the beans. They are absolutely, absolutely delicious. So there you go. A really simple way to make your own refried beans. You know exactly what ingredients you put in. You can manage the salt. You can manage the spices. You can make it however you like it. But this is a basic technique to get you started. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you make it yours, and make it delicious.